Welcome. Good to be with you all. Lovely as always to be able to meet in this way. So please find your seat and get comfortable. And I welcome you to Satsang. Yes. So somebody emailed a question. I believe it was David Morris. Let me see if I can find it. It's about non-duality. And so let's see, some people are still getting in the room, but let's see if I can do this. David writes, everybody, including you, Craig, is frequently using the term non-duality, but I don't think I understand its definition. I suspect the term has become quite muddied with many different definitions through different schools and 10 different meanings. For instance, would a Zen definition of non-duality be different than a tantric one? What is the origin of the term? By the way, I would also love to hear you teach the definition of Tantra someday. Yeah. So David, email me next week and we'll do Tantra next week or one of these weeks. So what I'd like everyone to do right now is to see if you can pull your awareness back out of the thinking mind. And so we can start with an open-eyed meditation where we are stepping back out of our thoughts, out of our egoic identity, and stepping into the space of the true mind, the space of Buddha nature, which is sky-like. Sky-like. And so everyone right now, please pull awareness, out of the thinking mind. And if you can take this big backward step and giving yourself permission to let go of any thoughts, any thinking, any sense of self or me or I. And can you be the space of awareness? Being the space of awareness. And from this space, with your eyes open, you can look around your room or the environment. And what I'm inviting for you is for your consciousness to expand beyond the edges of the body. And for you to become the space in the room, the space in your home, the space in the sky. And so you might say, becoming the space. What does that mean? So it could be helpful to feel into space. So you can play around with this feeling, the volume of the room you're in. Just feeling the volume, feeling the space. Now, the normal human separate identity is accustomed to just noticing objects within the space. But what I'm inviting for you is for you to acknowledge, to notice, to feel, to merge into the space, becoming the space. And as you do that, you may begin to notice a sense of oneness, a sense of unity with life, a sense of non-separation. And so another little game we can play with is if you notice awareness looking out from your point of reference, and again, just noticing all the space in the room, noticing the bigness of it, the freedom of this space. Expansive nature of the space. You can even imagine beyond your room. Let's take down some walls and feel into and experience the hugeness of the sky. And so I'm going to invite you to just to imagine kind of going outward with awareness, 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. Being this bigness, seeing this bigness, being this bigness. Noticing the bigger you allow yourself to be, the less thoughts you have, the less sense of an egoic identity you have. Even the word you or I or me doesn't feel like it fits when we give ourselves permission to be 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. Pretty soon, you just begin to merge into the hugeness of the sky, the hugeness of the earth, the hugeness of all that is, of all that is. And so one last little game we might play is there is a point of reference here, someone's seated in a chair or laying in a bed. And if you look out at the space, you feel as if you become space. Now, if we turn awareness upon itself and look inward at awareness, so there's awareness looking outward and you see space. But if you turn awareness upon itself and look inward, what do you see? And so if you join me in playing this game and you turn awareness upon itself and you see space within, this would be one of the realizations, David, of non-duality. Like in the most basic sense, the way I teach non-duality is, in the most basic sense, I teach non-duality is the realization that what you are is space, that your fundamental nature is vast, is spacious, is free. like the fundamental who and what it is that you are. It's made of space, it's made of peace, it's made of light. And then, of course, we begin to see that everything is made of space and peace and light. Everything. Everything. And so, what is non-duality? Well, words for it, some words that are often used are oneness and unity. I like to use spaciousness. But non-duality is often when you experience life directly as it is, without the filter of mind. And so it's experiencing life directly, without the filter of division. When you experience life directly, you tend to feel one or unified with all that is. And so a basic definition of non-duality might look like something like not two. Not two. Rather that all is one. Everything is made of one giant fabric. But of course, as human beings, what does this mean? This is such a crazy paradox to experience the hugeness of unity, the hugeness of this fabric. And then also to realize, if you run into a wall or you stub your toe, ouch, there's something here. There's something here. Something here that is individual. Something here that is different between me and you. And this is the great paradox of this non-dual world, is that this world is made of one great substance, and yet simultaneously there's trillions of life forms here, each with an individual consciousness. But even though our consciousness or our perspective may be individual, as you let go of the individual consciousness, it can become the one consciousness, the recognition of the one, the experience of the one. But please, I don't want anyone to think about this philosophically. The true teachings of non-duality are a direct path, and they're meant to be experienced directly. To think about them, to speak about them, is again just to hide out in some philosophical place in the mind. But the invitation here in this moment is for each of us to wake up to this hugeness. This hugeness which is here in every moment of life. And this hugeness is within us and all around us. And one of the things that happens as we begin to open into the direct experience of this hugeness is all the walls, all the divisions, all the things that we held on to that divided us, they began to fall away, or they begin to fall away. Or like I was teaching last week, a lot of people missed the teaching last week and said, oh, Craig, he's just talking politics. Here he goes again, speaking politics. And my God, that is not the point of the teaching. The point of the teaching last week was to let go of this game we play in the mind, of my side against your side. It's a fundamental disease the fundamental illusion that keeps us from having the non-dual experience is seeing the world as a pair of opposites. Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, and liberals, vegans, non-vegans. That's like, what is it now? What if people are watching football now? My football team, your football team. And I don't know football, so I can't speak about it. But when we see life through any lens, through any lens of division, then we won't be able to fully enter the non-dual state. In the non-dual state, you see your enemy as your own self, as a fabrication of your own consciousness. You see it as a fabrication of your consciousness, like in the most pure sense. You see everything as your own self. The skies, the mountains, the trees, and those tend to be the easy things to see. In the true non-dual state, you'll see that the person oppressing you is an aspect of your own consciousness. Because your consciousness is the fullness of life. The fullness of life. So what is non-duality? We need a whole retreat on that, but it's nothing that can be summed up, in just a quick, pith teaching. Non-duality is the direct recognition that all of life is God, all of life is the divine, all of life is the self, all of life is you. Is you. And for the realization to be truly non-dual. So you asked, well, what are the different types of non-duality? Yeah, there's fundamentalism. Like there's a fundamentalist type of non-duality. When you meet with one of these teachers, they start using all these funny phrases and words, and the one who is here is not here, is ever present. It's like all this silly language that they use, or they try to make it so they don't exist. They say the ego is false and everything else is the truth. But in true non-duality, all of life is God. And then we could take it a step further. All of life, all of existence, and there's also realms of non-existence. We have to include those. All that's personal, all that's impersonal. And fully including the personal, fully including the non-personal, the impersonal. And we could go on and on here, but the basis that I want to convey here is there is great freedom, immense freedom, endless freedom when we let go of the I thought, the I this, I that. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, and we are different, and we don't like each other. If we can surrender all the I thoughts, And if we experience life directly, and David, I'm certain you've done this many times, where you go out to the ocean, and as you simply gaze at the ocean, you become the ocean. You become the ocean. But if we stand on the edge of the beach, we start being like a silly scientist, we say, well, I wonder if you could calculate how much water is in the ocean. And there's a me, and there's this guy that's calculating, and then the figuring and all that stuff, and then the water. Whereas in true non-duality, like even in a physical sense, you realize that the ocean is water. The ocean is also in the sky. The sky is in the ocean. I mean, those two are always just breathing into each other. If you ever just stare at the ocean, you'll see just clouds beginning to form and rain beginning to dump. And it's like, where does the ocean end and the sky begin? And then if we look at the human body, it's like how much of our body is the ocean as well. Like this body is, I believe it's primarily salt water, this thing. And we breathe like the ocean. And the ocean, breathes in connection to the moon. It's just like, where do I end? And the ocean begins and the moon begins. And of course, we're also made of earth. And we're made of this aliveness, and this aliveness that we are, the aliveness that the whale is and the hermit crab is. And let's have some fun. And the aliveness that comes to kill us one day is all one aliveness. It's all one aliveness. And so non-duality is this recognition. That everything is literally made of the same substance, is the same energy, has the same life force. And this happens, on macro levels, on micro levels, through in and throughout. But again, so it doesn't become a philosophy. This is something I used to just do as a child, is I would go out and I would stargaze and I would become the sky. And it wasn't even that I became the sky. I realized, I came to understand, I came to experience that my mind is the sky. And as this experience deepens, I begin to see that this body is the sky. This body is the earth. And so the teachings of non-duality often are taught in a way where we open to the direct experience of our being. That means without a filter of a mind, without the filter of dogma, without the filter of philosophy. And we experience ourselves as life itself. And even to say like this is where, like I'm going to start using silly language, but like even when I say we experience ourselves, like there's something within me that's saying like not even that is true. We experience ourselves as God, because when you step into God, It's not this thought that I myself am God. There is the feeling, the direct experience that everyone, when I look at my wife, I see the divine. When I look at Doodles, I see the divine. When I look at Buster and he's losing his mind, going out in the street and chasing someone, trying to bite at their ankles, I see that this is God. This is God. And so God is in the peaceful monk, and God is in the aggressive whippersnapper dog that's fighting at our ankles. We begin to see and experience directly. And when we truly open to this, it does something quite disastrous to our egoic mind. Our egoic mind lives under this principle of I like, I'm attracted to that which feels good, and I'm afraid of that which feels bad. That which feels good is good, that which feels bad is bad. That's how the ego thinks. The problem with non-duality is the more you open to the hugeness of your being, it becomes very difficult, incredibly difficult, almost impossible to think in terms of good and bad, right and wrong, holy, like we spoke about last week, or evil. It becomes almost impossible to see evil anymore. Some of you were shocked when I said something was not evil last week. But what you do see, you can still have discernment with non-duality. But that judgmental place of the mind dissolves. And in its place, as you start to see from a place of discernment that there are different beings who are in alignment with their highest nature. There are some beings in alignment with their animal nature, which would be a lower nature. There are some beings who are mentally ill, or psychotic, or suicidal, or deeply anxious. And the reason, well, we're in a true space of non-duality, that we don't judge is not because the priest said don't judge. But we don't judge because we see all these things with our own self. We see these things. We found these very things within our own consciousness, our own human consciousness. And so when I find anger and hatred and violence within me, and I see it as an aspect of the animal nature of this body and this biology, and if I catch you on a day where you are angry and hating and being violent, because I've seen it in myself, now I see it in you, I've probably seen it in others. I see, oh, this is part of the fabric of the human consciousness. And there's no judgment about it. There's discernment. This is anger and this causes pain. But it doesn't say, you are bad and you are wrong. You are a sinner. You're a sinner. Because when we play the sinner game, we play this game that you are wrong and I am right. I'm going to heaven and you are not. That's the game of division. That's the game of ego. That's the game of I'm better than. That's the game of separation. There's the heathens and then the ones who are saved or who are born again. In true non-duality, we don't play that game. We don't play that game. We see that all of humanity is growing and evolving. It's just like one giant force. Every time I make a step, the world makes a step. Every time I make a step backwards, life makes a step backwards. Because I am life. You are life. And of course, we do this together, and that's the paradox of it. That's the paradox of it. And so what is non-duality? It's when we live in a state of consciousness without separation. And again, if we want to, I'd like to assign us all homework just for fun. It's my favorite homework ever. And it is just simply going outside every single day, multiple times a day. But please do this at least once. Just to go outside and to look at the hugeness of the sky without any thought. And you can go on a walk, so we're walking and allowing our mind to be the sky. You're walking without thinking, walking without playing with the phone, walking without talking, just to walk and to be. And I'm going to invite us to gaze at the sky, to be sky gazers. So this is the homework, is for us to all go outside and to gaze at the sky. And as you gaze, become the thing you gaze at. Become the hugeness, the immensity. If you are thinking a lot, this is very hard, almost impossible. If you allow yourself to be thought free, it's very easy. Very easy. In fact, all of us are already hardwired to do this, to be this way. Like when you're a newborn child, you're like, and you don't feel any sense of separation. It's just when we started to adopt our ego, we adopted the feeling of being separate. There's a me and there's a mommy, and then there's this brother who's always poking me. I have to go to therapy because my brother poked me again and again and again. At one point, he strangled me. So I need to go to lots of therapy so I can forgive my brother. And the beautiful thing, like with good therapy, we validate our pain so that our ego can relax, and then we naturally forgive. And people say this thing, forgive and forget. There's this beautiful thing that happens. If you just forgive, the forgetting happens. And when the forgetting happens, it's like walls disappear in your consciousness, walls that once divided you. From the hugeness of reality, the non-separateness of reality. And so this is a beautiful question. What is non-duality? And David said something, let me pull it up, make sure I can get this right. For instance, would a Zen definition of non-duality be different than a tantric one? What is the origin of the term? I'd like to say the origin of the term is from a sage in South India, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say the origin of the term came from any human being who simply stared at the sky, who stared at a mountain, who stared at the ocean, who stared at the immensity of the earth, and noticed their mind began to expand. Like I had this really funny experience. I had this kid when I was a high school teacher. I was a high school teacher for maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah, just like a part-time teacher. And I had this kid in my class, and all the kids, like I had the delinquents in my class, that's who I worked with. I loved them to death. But that's who I worked with. I'm just going to use that word delinquent. Special needs would be a more politically correct term, or I'm not going to go into political correctness. They were delinquents, and they knew they were delinquents, and we had a lot of fun together because I'm kind of a delinquent myself. And so this kid, he didn't do his homework. And if you came to my class, almost everyone, I would say everyone passed my class. I couldn't give out Fs, but I had 70% of my students were F students. Like some of them couldn't read. Some of them were 18 and couldn't read. I mean, it was a tough situation that I had. And they had terrible life circumstances and this and that. And a lot of them came from broken families, and a lot of them came from, some of them were homeless. Some of them lived like, a lot of kids just grew up like on the Navajo and Ute reservation. And a lot of alcoholism, a lot of weren't sure, who the parents were and all that kind of stuff. It was just a tough situation. But I had a kid, and he didn't do his homework. He didn't do any work. And so one day I gave him a bad grade. And so he used to write my name. Gosh, I wish I could say these words. I don't know if I'm allowed to say these words on YouTube. He'd say, Craig is it was an F-A, and I'll let you finish the last letter. And he used to just write this like on the board. He'd write it on my desk. He wrote it on my grade book, which was classic. And this fella, he was really upset with me for a long time. And so I said, hey man, like, let's go for a walk. And so I took him down by the river. There was a river right behind the school I taught at. And I was like, what's going on with you? And he's like, I'm upset with you, Craig. And I said, I know you are. I'm not your enemy. Like, trying to teach you how to read and write so you can be something more than just a carpenter. I want you to be able to read and write. And he's like, I know. As I said, come here. Look out at this river. What do you see? Like, what do you notice in your consciousness when you look out at the river? And he said, my mind starts to expand. Then I get real nervous and I want a cigarette. And I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard. Because here he was standing next to me, and he's beginning to have this expanded state of consciousness. So I was trying to show him, there's more to life than just going to school and hating Craig, and seeing if we could come together in a unified state. I kind of scared the poor kid. I kind of scared him by helping him open to his divinity. And so one of the things that happens as our mind expands is most of us, we start to feel out of control egoically. And so we look for something that we can grab onto. And for him, his comfort food, his comfort pillow, his comfort teddy bear was a cigarette. I'm going to show you what my the thing that brings me comfort is any article of camouflage clothing. brings me great comfort. Some of you may think, God, that's really weird. How does that bring anyone comfort? I grew up in a family, and it was a military family. And my older brother, like when I was, when I was 3 years old, my older brother was wearing camo. My father wore camo. And there was just this feeling of being at home, being with my brother, being in the woods, being in nature, being with other little kids, and we'd run around and just, and so like we all have something that makes us feel very comfortable. For me, camouflage clothing. For some people, it's cigarettes. For some people, most everyone now, it's their darn phones. Like they cannot relax unless their phone is on their body. And they're not even relaxing. Just like with a cigarette, you don't really relax. But I tell you, if you put on a camo hoodie, you will relax. You will relax greatly. And so, David, your question, well, is there the different types of non-duality? So in the tantric school, we open to the non-dual through the total embrace of life, the total embrace of all that is, of all that is. Now, in the Zen schools, often we open to non-duality through shutting everything out, through shutting everything out and being one-pointed. Now, of course, Zen has a tantric school. And with true Zen, it's all tantric and it's all direct. And in true Tantra, it's all direct, even though you go to it indirectly. And so, like I went to Mass today. And like my wife, she's wanting to become a good Catholic. And so I'm supporting her in it. She wants to join the church. She wants to be a part of this thing. And when I was in church today, it's like an hour and a half long service. And with Catholic Mass, if you've been, there's lots of ritual. Like the whole thing is pretty much ritual. My daughter, she's singing in the choir, and so there's these songs, and then there's standing up, kneeling, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, shaking hands, saying the Our Father, doing this kind of thing. It's like there's all these rituals. There's the the communion sacrament at the end. It's just a whole song and dance. And it's the same thing every week, like the same rituals. But I went in there with an empty mind. And the priest, he said this one word throughout the service that did something to me. He just said the word forgiveness. Forgiveness. And there was this place within my humanity that had been holding a point of angst against another fellow human being, a human being who had done great harm, great violence to someone in my family. But the priest just said the word forgiveness. And there was a part of this wall that I had between me and this individual who hurt my family began to crumble. Just began to crumble. And when I went outside after Mass, it's like the sky was bigger. The colors were brighter. I could hear the birds more fully. I already have a great experience, lived experience of non-duality, but there was just another wall that I had found. In fact, I didn't even find this wall. And that's the thing with non-duality. Like when we're in the beginning of the path, we say, okay, I have to go through myself and find all the walls within me and dissolve them through like Jesus's teachings of forgiveness. Forgiveness is an incredible doorway to non-duality. So that's the tantric approach, is through a path like forgiveness. But when I really looked at my experience, the priest just said this word forgiveness. Whatever unconscious thing was in me just came forward and collided with this word forgiveness. And something magical happened. Craig, the human being, the character, the person on the path, didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. I just sat there with an empty mind. I can't even claim credit for letting go. It's like letting go just happened. And see, this is where, David, I'm going to get into that non-dual speak again. Or use these funny words. Forgiveness just happened. There wasn't an I in me that came forward and said, I need to forgive this person. Life brought together these two pairs of opposites. This is what life does. Like in a truly non-dual sense, life will put the victim and the offender in the same room. The ego will say, my God, this is a mistake. I am being, I'm going to use my least favorite word, I am being triggered. I am being triggered by this person. This person. So that's like the definition of ego. In non-duality, you see that God brings that person into your life. So that unity can take root. So that the resolution of opposites can occur. In both parties, that the victim sees that this person is a human, just like me, and they're worthy of forgiveness. They see that the more I hold on to this pain and repeat the story in my head, the more it causes suffering for me. The victim may wake up and realize, damn it, the thing they did to me, I've also done that before in the past in a variety of ways. Now, they may have done it a lot worse than how you did it. But, you know, it's like everyone lies on planet Earth. Everyone lies. In a funny way, you know what camouflage is? Camouflage is, it's a form of, camouflage is lying. Like that's what camo is. Tries to get you to lie. So, so the animals can't see you, the ones that you're coming to get. So the enemy can't see. That's what camouflage is. In a psychological way, when we tell lies, lying is a form of camouflage because we think it protects us. And so most of us, I hope, can admit, I've lied greatly. This guy lied to me. It caused me suffering. And I can see the mistake I made. I can see it in them. I see the confusion in me. I see it in them. I see this human consciousness that was given to me that once lied. I saw it lie in them when they lied directly to me. And so you see, oh gosh, that forgiveness is just a way of life. It's a way of truth. You can't hold a grudge. And when the offender looks at you, if they look at you with their heart, they see, I feel like crap. I feel like garbage because I know I shouldn't have hurt them. I know I shouldn't have hurt that other human being. All of us, like if we've ever dominated someone egoically, and then we see them an hour later, the next day, it's like we have remorse within us. We have remorse. Some of us have put up a stone wall and act like we don't have remorse, but we all feel remorse. We all feel remorse. And see, God brought us both together, the victim and the offender. The victim and the offender. So that we could learn to heal, so we could learn to wake up and realize, I don't want to hurt my friend. I don't want to hurt anyone. Because when I hurt them, it feels like hell. So that's what the offender realizes. And the victim realizes, I can't hold a grudge for something that I myself do. And even if they hurt me greatly. Sorry, I lost my Facebook stream somehow. I don't know what to do about that. If I hold a grudge, it feels like hell. It feels like hell in me. It feels like division within me. And so this is tantric non-duality, as we see that God is everywhere. We see that God is everywhere. Give me a second, everyone, please. There it is. We see that God is everywhere. We see that it's not just me waking up. We see that it is life waking up. Life waking up. Not in the form of this one, in the form of all ones, all beings. This is what true non-duality is this recognition that life is waking up. So sometimes, David, in like a fundamental school of non-duality, it's all about me waking up out of my ego, getting off the wheel of samsara, and seeing that everyone is living in a dream. And I'm living in the land of enlightenment. And you see, like that's just as dualistic as, I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat and you are wrong. You are wrong. Climate change is a hoax. It's fake. It's real. It's, it's this, it's that. My science is the one and only science. I'm awake and you're asleep. It's the same disease. Fundamentalism and non-duality, the same fundamentalism in Southern Baptist, the same fundamentalism in, we're all going to die, climate extinction. Climate change is a hoax. It's like people get stuck in their view. Get stuck in their view. And their view solidifies them in one perspective. Now, is there a true perspective? Of course. And in Zen, we call that reality. Most traditions, we call that reality. And when you step into reality, you see life as it is, and you see, yeah, the planet is warming up. It is warming up. You see that. But you also see it's not the Republicans that are the problem. It's not the climate deniers that are the problem. You see, it's the way us human beings live is a problem. Us human beings. It's not me against them. I'm on the right side of history. You're on the wrong side. We see that all of us are part of this mess. We see that in reality, the way the earth heals is through human beings working together, not through human beings being divisive. That's how we heal. That's how we heal. I saw this movie the other day. So it was a movie I missed. I never saw this one, but I watched it the other day. Dances with Wolves. Like I'm sure probably most everyone's seen it, unless you're young. Dances with Wolves, right? That's the name of it. And I saw all these different groups. There was the natives against the white man, the big bad white man. And I can remember once I had to sit and I listened to someone who was one of these. I'm going to use this word. I'm going to get political again for everyone. I listened to someone who was very woke, not in the spiritual sense, but a different kind of sense, telling me that Native Americans couldn't be racist and they were never racist and they lived in harmony and unity with the land and each other and never caused any pain. And going on and on, a white man was the only one who causes the pain and the division and the wars in the world and this and that. But I was just watching this movie, it was Dances with Wolves, and they were working this theme of the natives versus the white man. And then at one point in the movie, I think it was the Sioux, who were the main tribe. The Pawnee came and attacked the Sioux, and they were fighting over land. And then you had the white men fighting with Pawnee. And it's just like what I see, like when we step into reality. So we see that human beings have done this since the beginning of time, has fought over land, fought over territory. Us against them according to our tribe. According to our tribe. Now, I have friends who are, I have some good friends who are Navajo, and I have good friends who are Utes. And they both have racist jokes about each other. And it's just like we have this idea that there's a chosen people, a utopian land, that some people are bad and some people are good. When we come into reality, we see the nature of the human mind. we see it clearly that the human mind has an animal nature, an emotional nature. So these two create like a tribal nature, the animal nature, a nature that can kill, and the emotional nature that plays me and mine and my people, my nation. But also, paradoxically, within human nature is this incredible divinity. This incredible divinity. This incredible love and unity. Incredible. Of course, the teachings of non-duality, the teachings of any true spirituality, are going to invite us to evolve out of our animal nature, evolve out of our emotional nature, our tribal nature, evolve out of our egocentric nature, and evolve into a more unified nature where we see beauty everywhere. We see beauty everywhere. And we still have discernment, but it's discernment mixed with compassion. Whereas the ego tends to have, I don't even want to call it discernment. The ego's discernment is judgment mixed with fear. Is what it is, or mixed with righteousness, which I guess both are fear. Both are fear. And so a great question for us to investigate if we want to step into the realm of non-duality is, what are the thoughts in my mind? And again, that's a big thing I was trying to bring forward last week. What are the thoughts in my mind, the beliefs in my mind that I hold on to, that divide me against the other human beings here on planet Earth? And so the big ones, of course, are political, religious, our nationality, our ethnicity, if I can say these words, our age, our gender, and more our world appears like it's becoming more and more divisive with the internet. One of the things that I'm hoping that we can begin to play with is just this basic question. What walls do I put up between me and life? Whether it's a wall of political thinking, righteousness, me against you, I'm better. And again, we spoke about this last week. Sometimes the wall is everyone's better than me. Everyone's better. I think that one's a funny one. Everyone's better than me. I find it funny because it's one I've done a lot throughout my life. Everyone else is better than me. Everyone else deserves more than me. And again, that too is a wall. That too is a wall. Some people are, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. I met with a friend the other day, an old friend. And he tried very hard not to be seen. Like he didn't want me to see him. Like he puts up walls. Like we were talking, it's not like he was running away. Like, no, I don't want Craig to see me. It was, he wouldn't let me see the depth of his soul, the depth of his suffering. You know, we might call this, he wasn't willing to be real with me because he was afraid. He was afraid to be open and vulnerable. And so he put up these walls of tough guy, or cool guy. It was kind of a mix of between tough guy and cool guy was the walls he put up. And when we do that, like when our ego takes on a character and says, I'm tough guy or tough gal, tough person, I'm cool guy. We put this wall between us and life. And when we put walls between us and life, our life is much more, our path is much more inefficient. It's much more inefficient because you don't feel, you don't experience, you don't see life, and you can't hear what life is trying to show you, what life is trying to teach you. It's very hard for the truth to come into your heart. Like the truth came into my heart earlier today and just said forgiveness. And then forgiveness just started happening because I had no walls. But if I had a wall up that said, I'm cool guy, I'm not forgiven. I'm too cool to forgive. Like, I don't know if that's what a cool guy would say, but like, I think you know what I mean. But if we put up walls, I'm angry guy. Maybe that's what it'd be. I'm angry guy. I'm not going to forgive. We play this game with, like I've seen a lot of guys do this card. This isn't something that left people do. This is what people on the right do. Never forget 9/11. Never forget. And you act like tough, like we have to be angry. We have to hate someone. And it's like, never forget. And again, like horrible tragedy. I want to be crystal clear about that. Horrible tragedy. But, if we're open, when we're deeply open, we're deeply honest, we might not be walking around saying, never forget. Like this is something that happens with victims of abuse often. It's like, never forget. Never forget what, some man did to you. And so then we just like hate all men for the rest of our life, spend their life hating half of the planet. A greater question. A greater question, not for the people victim of abuse. Greater question for the 9/11, never forget people. It's like, what part did we have in this? Like in any war, like normally someone doesn't come and just throw a rock at your house because they hate freedom. I think is that what Mr. George Bush once said. Normally someone throws a rock at your house because you did something to their house. Because you did something to their house. You see, when we step into the realm of non-duality, it's very hard to play us against them. You start to see life in the realm of me and me. It's me and me, me and me, not us against them. It's me and me. You see that all life is one giant you. One giant you. And because it's one giant you and you know yourself, it's a lot easier to have forgiveness, to have compassion. Also, sometimes when we know ourselves, it's easier to set boundaries with others because we see there's a tyrant in me that I need to put a boundary around, and there's tyrants out there, so I need to put a boundary around them. And so again, like I don't want anyone to think I'm teaching in a way where we just all roll over and play dead. You see, there's things within you need to fight against, and there's things in the outward world we need to fight against. There's things in myself I need to forgive. There's things in the outside I need to forgive. And so, David, in a way that many people teach non-duality, is they teach it as a form of fundamentalism. where I wake up to a land of freedom and I forget about life and I'm good. I live in vast spacious awareness. The world is a dream. And I'm not going to engage in that dream. That's how many people teach non-duality in the modern age. I teach it in a much more tantric approach. I see the further you walk in the world of non-duality, the more radically you will include all of life. So a fundamentalist teaches non-duality in an exclusive way. I'm awake, you are asleep. I'm in a space of freedom and truth. I live in reality. You live on the wheel of samsara. Then you see like the subtle judgment there. So like thought, like, I don't really care. But in true non-duality, you see yourself everywhere. You see war in yourself. There's the same war in Ukraine. The same war in Ukraine. You see a tyrant in yourself. You see a tyrant in Putin. You see a little liar in yourself. Like I was, the other day, I was at someone's house and this guy had like a $3 million home. And he's a really nice fellow. He was a scientist. I was like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I work from home. I was like, okay, cool. What do you do? Like, I'm a scientist. Okay, great. What do you do to have a $3 million home? Like, I'm curious. Like, I want to keep harassing you. And I came to find out, oh, like this fella, he worked, making little wires and little diodes and little computer electronics for things that go bang in a big way. For things that go bang in a big way. And so in the United States, we have all these people. They work for, what do they call it? The defense industry. Like, that's a lie. That's a lie. They're bomb makers. Like my older brother, he went to Iraq and Afghanistan. And his main job was to arrest bomb makers. Like, that's what he did. He would round them up and arrest them. And arrest them, people who made bombs. And, I was at a bomb maker's house the other day. And here in the United States, like sometimes I guess in many lands, we celebrate the bomb maker. And, this fella, he was living in a $3 million home. But where I was going at with it was he lies to himself about what he does. He says, I work in defense. I'm just making wires. I'm just working with electronics. I just happen to make, all this money every year. It's like we all lie in one form or another, like some of us in bigger ways. But from the space of non-duality, I can see, because I know how this guy can lie to himself. Because I see all the ways that I have lied to myself in the past. But at some point, I realized through lying to myself, it shut down my heart. It caused me great pain. It made me feel out of alignment with the truth. It made me feel as if I was walking and living in hell. And so as you experience non-duality, you feel like you are in your heart, you're in alignment with truth, you're in alignment with heaven. It feels spacious and open and free. Whereas when we lie, we feel like the Grinch. Like we feel like the Grinch. We feel like our heart is 2 sizes too small. Two sizes too small. And if any of you know the story of the Grinch, the story goes something like he hated children. But he really didn't hate children. The truth of the Grinch, like when he comes into reality, was his heart was hurting because he didn't have a mom and a dad. He grew up in an orphanage. He didn't have any friends. People made fun of him. So to live in the world of non-duality, we cannot live in lies which are shielding us from feeling our own pain. We can't live in righteousness and hatred and I'm better than you and the other game and my team versus your team. We live in a space of universal compassion, universal inclusivity. We include everyone and we support life growing. So we all suffer less. And by we all, I'm going to include the planet as well. All beings on the planet. So we all suffer less. And imagine the world we're in now. Like if we stop lying and hating and being so inwardly divided, like if we want the wars to end on planet Earth, we need to learn how to forgive each other and extend an olive branch. If we want the outer world wars to end, we have to end the inner wars within ourselves. The inner wars. If we want to support the ecology of planet Earth, we have to learn how to work with each other. To work with each other. We have to find another way to live together. We have to get rid of blaming and attacking, judging and condemning and othering. This is a beautiful question. It's a beautiful question. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate the question. Because I've used that term a lot, non-duality. It's like, what is non-duality? Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And again, like the simplest way, David, like, and you already play with this, when you go out to the ocean and you let the ocean move you, you become one with the ocean. That's the direct experience of non-duality. That's the direct experience of it. But sometimes we can't just all be floating in the ocean all the time. When we come into contact with other human beings, the challenge I'm going to give you all is, can you see this person as your own self? As your own self. And it might be a confused version of yourself. Sometimes I see a confused version of myself walking around aimlessly. Sometimes I see one who's really got his act together. Really got his act together. Can we forgive our neighbor? Can we love our neighbor? Can we speak to our neighbor? And by all means, like I'm also a big fan of like, we need to find a way to grow together, to grow together. And so, part of that is for us to challenge each other, in growth. And like, let me use that word challenge again. The challenge that we humans have is, how do we do that? Like, how do we challenge each other to grow? How do we speak in a way that other people can actually hear us and listen, and we can create greater understanding among each other? Because it's hard to help people grow if you're just telling them they're wrong. And it's one of the things, like, I had this funny moment at church today. The second thing that happened at church was the priest got up there and he said, we are changing, like the Catholic Church is changing the way, changing the way we teach children. Like in the past, it was the catechism. If you know that book, it's like this fat. It's like little kids aren't going to learn the catechism, But they're saying, the priest went up and he said, we failed miserably with the catechism. I was just like, oh my God, he just said like the church, like we have to admit our own failures, because sometimes we try to take a big book of truth and try to shove it down kids' throats. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so he said, we're going to try a new approach. After church, we're all going to get together and have something to eat and some donuts. And we're going to have a little talk about God. It's like, okay, there you go. You might win some friends. You might get some kids. Giving them some donuts and having the whole family there. Get like the whole family there, so no longer the kids separated and, having some mean old nuns trying to shove the catechism down their throat, or some creepy priest who's praying on them. It's like, no, we're just going to get together. We're going to eat some donuts. We're going to talk about God. How about that? How about that? How about that? And that's a step in the realm of evolution. Now, the righteous part of our mind say, no. We need to have the catechism. We need everyone to get on this one philosophy. It's like, no, human beings, give them a little sugar and some dough and talk to them about God. See what happens. So anyways, the homework is for us to all go outside and to look at the big, beautiful sky. Allow your mind to expand to the hugeness of the sky. This one will be a little harder. Allow your belly to expand into the hugeness, the fullness of the earth. Be the sky and be the earth. Be the sky and be the earth without thought. Let the sky move through you as a space of freedom. Let the earth move through you as the force of strength, of power, of evolution, of inspiration, of creativity, of kindness, of love, of compassion, of giving, of generosity. Let the earth move through you. Let the sky move through you. Let the ocean move through you. And so much love to each of you. So much love. Let us all do this. There's someone in the Sangha. Mira is really suffering. Let us all just send Mira a big dose of love. May her heart be healed. May her mind be free. May she be fully supported on this path. And by all means, if you're suffering in any way, let us pray for you and you and you and you. May your hearts be filled with the highest love. May our world be supported. May human beings learn to love and live in unity together, now and forevermore. May we live in alignment with the laws of nature. May we come to respect this beautiful planet. May we bow deeply before God, before each other, before the divinity of all beings, now and forevermore. Good night, everyone. So good to be with you. Much love.